Tennessee baseball, the only team to make the Super Regionals 5 years in a row. What should be the annual expectations for UT's football team going forward? Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. How did you phrase that on the YouTuber?
What are fair expectations for Tennessee football over a 4-year period? And I've got a bunch of different options, and I will say Tennessee fans are very ambitious over what they want to see.
Okay,
No
mine
surprise.
are slightly higher than yours. I believe in a 5-year span, and I'm assuming it's a 16-team playoff.
I did 4 years. Should I have done 5 years? Sorry.
That's okay. But out of a 4-year span, it's definitely 3. And I'll give them a mulligan, but I do believe that they need to make a serious championship run. That means at least make the Final Four, if not beyond. We're talking about a 16-team playoff. That was the standard when Philip Fulmer was the head coach. That was the standard for a good bit of Johnny Major's career as a head coach. I think Tennessee is of that ilk. If it were still 12, I might go a little bit lighter, but I'm assuming it's going to be 16. Your vote on the poll question on the YouTube, and we'll get to some of your comments. Caleb, I think you tend to agree.
Yes, and so here's the options for people who, for everybody. So 1 is CFP every single year, 3 serious runs of those 4 years, and then 1 national title every 4 years. That's like the ambitious one. The other one is CFP.
Actually winning one, not making a run.
Yeah, actually winning one. The other one is CFP 3 out of the 4 years, and a deep serious run 2 out of the 4 years. And then another option is just make the CFP every other year. And then the final one is make the CFP once every 4 years. I am of the camp, and I'm actually with you, Dave. I am make the CFP 3 out of 4 years. And I think every other year it's fair to want a deep run. Now, what is that deep run? Maybe 1 year you just win 1 game and get to the top 8, and then another year you'll win 2 to get to the Final Four, or win 3 to get to the title game, or maybe even get lucky and win a national title. So something like that. But I do think that, like, I think 2 out of the 4 years you need to make some sort of run in the CFP, whatever that type of run may be. I'm not sure, but I think you need to be in the CFP 3 out of every 4 years. I mean, whatever. Do I think sometimes Tennessee fans in the past have had an overinflated view of just how good of a program they have? Yes, but I don't think there's any debate that they've had a top 16 program traditionally of all time. So you should be a top 16 program every year, or most of the time.
Well, and let's remember this too. For those of you that aren't college baseball fans, SEC baseball is probably better than SEC football. And that sounds crazy, right?
Correct.
So the expectation should actually be higher for Tennessee football than they should be for Tennessee baseball. Would you agree with that?
I wouldn't agree with that, and here's why I'll say that. While SEC baseball is tougher, I also think college baseball is like college basketball, which is to say that if you get the right coach, it doesn't really matter the infrastructure of your program. You can be great. I think the success of the program is totally dependent on the coach in college baseball. I think in college football, I think a coach is only half the battle of being a successful program. There are infrastructure issues with every program that really determine whether or not a program's in good shape. Dave, let's just be honest. If Nick Saban took over in Alabama in 2003 when Mike Shula did, he wouldn't have had the run he had. There's just no question he would not have had that run.
Well, it's almost like somebody told me that was very involved that Todd Raleigh actually did a lot in terms of saving money so they could build the new stadium and all the stuff that they built and add all the facilities that they've added that have made them that much better. And Caleb, in doing that, they have raised expectations and people expect more, but the football infrastructure, in my opinion, was already there. And they've added haven't they added another indoor practice facility? I mean, my goodness.
I think, the football infrastructure is fine. I think it's just, you are more dependent on other things. Like, would you say if you had AI robots coaching every single football program in the country, just a bunch of AI robots coaching every single college football program, Tennessee would be a top 10 program. They wouldn't be number 1, 2, or 3. Or even 4 or 5 for that matter.
I've always thought more along the lines of 8, but we're pretty close. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Today's tough question. Boom. You heard that. Now take it. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Before we get results of the poll question, Adam says finishing in the top 16 should be a given. However, we don't know what it takes to finish in that 16. It may be auto-qualifying within the toughest conference, or it may be the 16 best teams overall. I'm going to go ahead and put my neck out there and assume that the Power 4 conferences all get an automatic bid, and then it's the 12 best teams. Okay, that's the parameters we're going to work with. We don't know that that's going to be the case. But give us
it'll be Power 4 plus one group of 5. So it'll be the 11 best teams after the group of 5.
I'm cool with that. All right,
Yeah.
give us an update on the poll question. Where do we stand?
Okay, so what are fair expectations for Tennessee football over a 4-year period? 47%, a plurality, say CFP every year, 3 deep runs, 1 title. 22% say CFP 3 years, deep run 2 years, 2 of those 4 years. 31% say CFP every other year, and then 0% are saying CFP just 1 year out of 4 years. I tend to agree with the 19% CFP 3 out of 4 years and a deep run 2 out of 4 years.
2 out of 4 years. All right, I'm going to tell you.
No, make the CFP 3 out of 4 years, but just make a deep run 2 out of 4 years.
Right. Yeah, that's what I said. 2 out of 4 years, make a deep run. Are you considering that Final Four, Elite Eight?
I think it could be. How about, I think it should average out to 2. Like, so if you make Elite 8 1 year and then you make the title game the next year, you know what I mean? Or 2 Final Fours, you can kind of fiddle with it. Just, you can't, how about this? You can't get bounced out. You have to do more than just make the first round of the playoffs.
And get hammered.
4 years.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's
Ohio State. Yeah.
That's almost like not making it in some ways. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. If they don't, there's a peculiar reason why, as it is today's tough question. Fair expectations for Tennessee's football team.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Will do, Coop. Now, if they don't, why? It's looking like it's going to be the quarterback position. What you would have said after the 2022 season was pure insanity. After the way Hendon Hooker played, I think, and we've discussed this before on the program, I think there's a real concern that Josh Heupel, instead of being a system coach and a great quarterback coach, is a system coach and not the latter. I wrote that in my column on offthehooksports.com. If that's the case and Tennessee's held back by its quarterback play, I'll just go ahead and tell you, Josh Heupel in 4 years is going to be on the hot seat or fired.
So let's break down the idea of, I mean, I agree with you. Being a system coach, though, is somewhat dependent on, you can have a system and just tweak it year in and year out. I mean, I think you would agree. Isn't Urban Meyer technically a system coach? That spread offense is a system, isn't it?
Yes, but I think he was very ahead of the curve. I don't think Josh Heupel is the only guy doing Josh Heupel things right now.
Right. The question is, can Josh Heupel run it better than others? Because I think you and I both agree that while Urban Meyer was very ahead of the curve, a lot of other coaches picked up that offense. They didn't run it as well as Urban Meyer or Dan Mullen ran it, because Urban Meyer and Dan Mullen knew how to tweak the offense based on their personnel. And the question is, and with changes, I mean, let's just be honest. Rich Rodriguez also ran the spread offense even before Urban Meyer got there. But guess what? Rich Rodriguez never matched the success he had with Pat White and Steve Slayton at West Virginia. So, yeah, he couldn't run it the way Urban Meyer could. So I think that Josh Heupel, the question is, it's going to be big this year. Look, he brought in Seth Littrell as an offensive analyst. He's looking for ways to see if he can tweak the offense to try to stay ahead of the curve. If he doesn't, you're right, he's going to be fired in 4 years. But put it this way, because we talked about it's a 5+11 model. I think we both assume it's going to be a 5+11 model. I think it's safe to say, because it's not technically top 15 or top 16, but I think it's safe to say, Dave, outside of the group of 5 champion, the 4 Power 4 champions will be all in the top 16 anyway, won't they?
Yes.
Yeah. So the top 4 conference champions will all be in the top 16. So at the very least, you're going to be a top 15 team if you make the playoff.
Yeah,
And
I was thinking about this the other day, and I can't think of an example where one of the Power 4 conference champions weren't in the top 16.
I can't
Top
either.
12 for that matter.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's so most of the time you're going to have them in it. So at the very least, you're going to be a top. All you need to do is be a top 15 team. If you're a top 15 team, you're in pretty much. But I will say that, look, I think the expectation is what it is now. It has changed from 10 years ago. And actually, that's a great point from General Ursus. A Natty or SEC championship. It's been 26 years since either has been won. My old expectations, and I don't know if you ever agreed with me on this, Dave, and it never happened, but I thought if Tennessee was at its peak, they should want to win an SEC title once every 4 to 5 years.
Agreed.
I'm of the mindset now, who cares about an SEC title? I'm sorry, I don't care about it. I care about the playoff if I'm a fan.
Josh Heupel might if he's going into 2029 and he doesn't have a natty.
Would you rather win the SEC title or make the Final Four of the college football playoff?
Make the Final Four. I wouldn't argue with that, but if you go, let's say you slip into the SEC championship game and you're a 3-loss team. If you win that game, you make the college football playoff. That would be very significant.
Yes, I agree. But for that point, for the goal of making the playoff, that part's very true. I just look at it as, I think winning your conference nowadays is like winning your division in baseball or football. You don't really care as long as you get into the playoff. I mean, I don't think the Giants in 2007 are like, oh man, we upset the Patriots in the greatest game of all time. But darn it, I wish we won our division. I wish we won the NFC East. I don't think they're saying that.
General Ursa says, I expect to make the playoffs 3 out of the next 4 years and have at least 2 deep runs. But we really, as you mentioned, need to win an Natty or at least an SEC championship. It's been 26 years since we've won one. So my question is, if we're having this conversation in 2030 and Josh Heupel doesn't have an SEC championship or a national title, firmly on the hot seat, or is he even Tennessee's head coach?
Is that the only standard? Like, what if he's made 2 Final Fours between now and 2030? I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, what if he's made 2 SEC championship games? I mean, I asked the question. I don't necessarily adhere to that mindset.
I don't either.
If you make the SEC championship, just let's talk in extremes for a second. I like to do that to prove a point. If you make the national championship the next 4 years, you're not going to go into 2030 on the hot seat because you didn't win a natty or an SEC title.
Yeah, no, you're not at all. So I think the goal of a coach, I think we kind of overestimate, or we overthink too much the job of a coach. Everybody expects this blueprint to be laid of do this well this year, this well the next year, this well, and then you win the national title. I think really the truth, Dave, of coaches is you want them to get your program to a point where they can compete at a certain level. And once they're at that point, you let the chips fall where they may, right? And I mean,
that's the way Tennessee's baseball program was. They were knocking on the door before they won a championship last year. Nobody was upset with that.
Yeah, that's how Michigan was for years under Jim Harbaugh. Everybody wanted them to move on from Jim Harbaugh because they didn't take that next step, and they stuck with it. It's like I've always said this. It's like buying a share in the stock market that while everybody else is looking for the crypto spike, and trying to get in on it before it crashes, there's always that one steady person that just buys shares that get modest returns every year, and they get richer and richer and richer. And then one day they wake up and they're richer than everybody else because they didn't overreact and try to buy the crypto share that was going to explode.
General Ursa says, I get your point, Caleb, but winning the SEC within the championship drought that we've been on, I'll take that a step further, General Ursus. If they win the East and they top Georgia.
There is no East.
Oh, there is no East. If they beat Georgia, let's just say if they beat Georgia. Is that not a major step in the right direction? Let's say they lose to Alabama and Florida, but beat Georgia.
That's a huge step this year. That's actually a column for me to think about. But like, if they beat Georgia but lose to Alabama and Florida, I think they can live with that with Alabama and Florida on the road. But I will say this: that's going to raise even more red flags about Josh Heupel on the road. And there's already a lot of red flags about Josh Heupel on the road.
I still think the bigger red flag, though, Caleb, is the quarterback situation. We're talking about Georgia. Did they not maximize Stetson Bennett? I mean,
yes,
they got
they did.
every bit out of him. What quarterback other than Hendon Hooker has Tennessee gotten every bit out of? And now they're turning to a backup from UCLA and Joey Aguilar because they don't feel confident in their quarterbacks there. Now, I still think that's going to be a quarterback competition. I believe that firmly. But I do think it's interesting. I was watching 104.5 The Zone, and a good friend of mine, Brent Doherty, asked Josh Heupel about the Nico Iamaleava situation, and he said, no, let's turn this into the Joey Aguilar situation. That was the first thing I heard from an official standpoint that sounded like they're leaning towards Joey Aguilar. I've just heard analysts like you try to predict that. But that was the first time I heard something from somebody at Tennessee that made me think he's the guy. Because, I've questioned that.
No, you have. That's very true. Let's point out something Tennessee and Georgia have in common with this. You just said they got everything. They maximized everything they got out of Stetson Bennett. That was the same year Tennessee was maximizing what they got out of Hendon Hooker. What happened after that year? Both teams lost their offensive coordinator because Todd Monken went to the Ravens and Alex Golesh went to South Florida. I think we could safely say Georgia didn't get what they wanted out of Carson Beck. They felt he underachieved a little bit before transferring to Miami the last 2 years under Mike Bobo. And I certainly think Tennessee hasn't gotten what they wanted out of Joe Milton and didn't get what they want out of Nico Iamaleava under Joey Halzle. So you may have to question if both teams are – I mean, Georgia hasn't gotten back to the national title game ever since they switched from Todd Monken to Mike Bobo. I mean, I don't think that's a coincidence. I'm seeing for Georgia, I'll just say this, and I don't mean this disrespectfully because I respect him as a man, but I see a David Cutcliffe to Randy Sanders type like transition that Georgia's just made with Todd Monken to Mike Bobo. And
on a bad point by Caleb.